Check 3, 4. Okay. You ready? All right. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin McMahill. I'm the sheriff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. 27 years. 27 years. For 27 years, the family of Tupac Shakur has been waiting for justice. We are here today to announce the arrest of 60-year-old Duane Keefe Davis, aka Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur. Davis was arrested this morning by my LVMPD criminal apprehension team, and this investigation started on the night of September 7th, 1996. It is far from over. It has taken countless hours, really decades, of work by the men and women of our homicide section to get to where we are today. Several of those detectives that are standing here with us include Detective Cliff Mogg, the lead detective on this case. He is now retired. While I know there's been many people who did not believe that the murder of Tupac Shakur was important to this police department, I'm here to tell you that was simply not the case. It was not the case back then, and it is not the case today. Our goal at LVMPD has always been to hold those accountable and responsible for Tupac's violent murder accountable. Just like we do for every homicide victim in our city. Every single victim, every life that is lost is important and remains a priority to this police department. As we methodically built this case to move forward with an arrest, it was also important that at the same time, we're building towards a successful prosecution. We work closely with our esteemed district attorney, Steve Wolfson, in his office to ensure that is going to happen. Mr. Davis's own words reinvigorated our case in 2018. I'm going to give you some of those details, and I'm going to introduce to you our homicide lieutenant, Jason Johansson, and he will provide you many of the details on how we got here today.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. My name is Jason Johansson, and I'm the homicide lieutenant with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And my goal here today is to walk you through our investigation and what led us to the indictment of Duane Davis, also known as Keefe D, for the murder of Tupac Shakur. This case has been reviewed by our homicide team and homicide detectives for over 2.5 decades. And ultimately, our persistence in this investigation has paid off. Let me walk you through a timeline of events that as we know them right now. Prior to September 7th of 1996, as we all know, Tupac Shakur was an artist who was signed with Death Row Records. And that Death Row Records and its CEO, Marion Suge Knight, were closely affiliated with the Mob Piru criminal street gangs, and that they had an ongoing feud with the Southside Compton Crips. Duane Davis was the leader and shot caller of the Southside Compton Crips. And both of these gangs operated out of the Southern California area of Compton. On the night of September 7th of 1996, Tupac Shakur, along with Suge Knight and members of their entourage, which include members of Mob Piru, came to Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Duane Davis, along with his nephew, Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same event. As both were leaving the fight, members of Death Row Records spotted Orlando Anderson near an elevator bank inside the MGM, and at that time they began to kick and punch him near that elevator bank. I will now show you hotel security footage, as many of you have already seen, related to this incident. And on this incident, you will see Tupac Shakur, who's wearing a shiny satiny shirt, along with Marion Suge Knight, who's a large man in a brown suit, punching and kicking Orlando Anderson. Following this incident, you'll see hotel security intervene, and then they will leave the area of the fight. Little did anyone know that it is this incident right here that would ultimately lead to the retaliatory shooting and death of Tupac Shakur. Following this incident, Tupac and Suge Knight both left the MGM to make their way to a post-fight party, which was to occur at a local nightclub. At the same time, word had spread amongst members of the Southside Compton Crips of what had occurred inside the MGM. And then that's when Duane Davis began to devise a plan to obtain a firearm and retaliate against Suge Knight and Mr. Shakur for what occurred inside the hotel against Mr. Anderson. After Davis obtained a gun, he entered into a white Cadillac along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson. Based on our investigation, this is where we know they were seated. At some point in time, as they were in the white Cadillac, Mr. Davis took the gun that he had obtained and provided it to the passengers in the rear seat of the vehicle. As they were driving west on Flamingo Road near Koval, they had located the black BMW, which was driven by Suge Knight, and in the passenger seat was Tupac Shakur. And as they turned around, they pulled up near the passenger side of that vehicle and immediately began shooting at Mr. Knight and Mr. Shakur. Following that shooting, the white Cadillac fled the area southbound on Koval. And after our officers arrived on scene, Tupac was later transported to the University Medical Center, where he was treated medically and died approximately 6 days later on September 13th. My homicide section handled this investigation from its onset and for a short amount of time. And within a short amount of time, what we knew was that we were working a gang investigation where our victims, our witnesses, and our suspects were all from Southern California and not local to Las Vegas. Within the first few months of the investigation, our detectives knew most of the information I just briefed you on. However, we never had the necessary evidence to bring this case forward and present it for criminal charges. As time went on, this case had been reviewed multiple times by different investigators assigned to my section, but it wasn't until 2018 that this case was reinvigorated as additional information came to light related to this homicide. Specifically, Duane Davis's own admissions to his involvement in this homicide investigation that he provided to numerous different media outlets. In our section, we knew at this time that this was likely our last time to take a run at this case to successfully solve this case and bring forth a criminal charge. It was at that time that this case was assigned to Cliff Mogg, a detective within my homicide section. And over the last 5 years, my section worked closely hand in hand with the Clark County District Attorney's Office and followed a systematic investigative plan over the last 5 years. We've conducted countless interviews and corroborated numerous facts that were not only consistent with the crime scene on the night of the incident, but also corroborated and were consistent with the sequence of events that night. This ultimately led to us procuring a search warrant, which was executed at Mr. Davis's residence in Henderson, Nevada. And following the execution of that search warrant, in close coordination with the District Attorney's Office, this case was presented to the grand jury, which ultimately led to Davis being indicted on charges of murder. Before I hand it off to the District Attorney's Office, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Detective Mogg and all the other detectives that were not only assigned this case and reviewed this case, but all the other detectives from other agencies that assisted us in this investigation. They know who they are, and thank you very much for all the assistance you provided. It does not go unnoticed. And lastly, one of the most important things, in my opinion, is that we need to make this be a reminder that the charge of murder does not have a statute of limitations. This agency has been and is invested in solving our cold case homicides so that we can bring closure to those families and justice for those victims of homicide. And with that, I will turn it over to the Clark County District Attorney, Steve Wilson.
Thank you, Lieutenant Johansson. I appreciate it. Good afternoon. I am the Las Vegas Clark County District Attorney, Steve Wilson. It has often been said, justice delayed is justice denied. It's a quote we hear often and for many, many years when talking about our legal system, but not in this case. Today, justice will be served in the murder of Tupac Shakur. I'd like to acknowledge the relentless work of the many Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department homicide detectives. We've mentioned Detective Cliff Mogg many times, and we can't mention his name enough. He is the detective, along with his colleagues, that brought this case here today to you. A Clark County grand jury has indicted Duane Keefe Davis with 1 count of open murder with use of a deadly weapon with a gang enhancement. Davis will appear in court in the next few days or so for a hearing to determine his custody status and to set a jury trial date. This grand jury has been receiving evidence for months and has determined there is sufficient evidence to justify the filing of this criminal indictment. I've assigned 2 of my top prosecutors, Mark DiGiacomo and Banu Palal, to prosecute this case. I know a lot of people have been watching and waiting for this day. Tupac Shakur is a music legend, and for a long time, this community and worldwide have been wanting justice for Tupac. Today, we are taking that first step. Tupac was actually quoted as saying, "Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside while still alive. Never surrender." Well, we didn't surrender thanks to the great work of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department under the leadership of Sheriff Kevin McMahill, Lieutenant Johansson, retired Detective Cliff Mogg. I am proud to announce the return of this document. This is the indictment we've been waiting almost 3 decades for. It spells out the facts and circumstances and what justifies a Clark County grand jury in returning an indictment. Justice will be served. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll pause it right there, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting edition. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. It has been nearly 27 years since his death. Police announced earlier today, police and the district attorney, as you've seen from this press conference, that a charge of murder indictment has been issued for one Duane Keefe D. Davis, man who was known as a gangster and leader of the South Side Compton Crips, for his alleged, and I have to say alleged because even though he has made some statements, it's still alleged that he had a connection with Tupac Shakur's murder. The charge is murder based off the indictment. And actually you can read it here. I believe it's not on the Associated Press, it's actually with the 1990, let's see, if you can read the indictment of Keefe D. He was charged with being his murder, connection with his murder. Now, that happened earlier today. This press conference was held. As you heard, the district attorney and the Lieutenant Jason Johansson, they spoke about his death and homicide and the investigation and the years that it took for them to finally get these charges. Now, I'm trying to apologize. I'm trying to pull up the actual indictment because I had it here. Somewhere it was here. Now, but let's talk about this. So, Keefe D. Davis has been on the record, been done in, just so everybody knows who Keefe D. Davis is. This is Keefe D. Davis right here. All right. He has gone on, I want to say, Vlad TV. He's also he's also promoted a book, memoir, talking about his connection in the murder of Tupac Shakur. Basically, that he was in the car, the Cadillac that pulled up next to Tupac Shakur's and Suge Knight's vehicle, and opened fire. We know on the night of September 7th, that was the Mike Tyson, I think, Bruce Sheldon fight. I'll never forget it. I was watching that same fight. Mike Tyson, Tupac Shakur were very close friends, and Pac attended that fight. Well, at the same time, of course, inside the MGM Grand, there was a fight that ensued, which involved Tupac and one Orlando Anderson. Now, I've heard the name Orlando Anderson. Many of you probably have heard it too, of Orlando Anderson being the shooter that killed Tupac Shakur, as well as Suge Knight being struck by bullets as well. And Davis has given a memoir, has given statements in his memoir interviews that he was in the front passenger of the attack and he implicated his nephew on it. As you know, Knight is serving a 28-year prison sentence in California for an unrelated voluntary manslaughter charge. On the night of July 17th, Las Vegas police quietly surrounded the home. This was earlier this year. We talked about this before, where Davis lived with his wife, Paula Clemens. Police lapel video obtained by the AP showed SWAT officers detaining a man and his wife outside the home lit up by a swirl of red and blue lights after announcing their presence on Bullhorn. The couple's faces are blurred in the videos. Police reported collecting multiple computers, a cell phone, and a hard drive, and a Vibe magazine that featured Shakur, several .40 caliber bullets, 2 tubs containing photographs, and a copy of Davis's memoir. Greg Kading, who's a retired Los Angeles police detective who spent years investigating the Shakur killing and wrote about it, a book about it, said he is not surprised by Davis's arrest. All the other direct conspirators or participants are all dead, King said. Keefe D is the last man standing among the individuals that conspired to kill Tupac. The rapper's death came as his 4th solo album, All Eyes on Me, remained on the charts with some 5 million copies sold. Nominated for 6 Grammy Awards, Shakur is still largely considered one of the most influential and versatile rappers of all time. So, what say you, fam? In the death and murder of Tupac Shakur, what do you all think? This is some breaking news, obviously. Unfortunately, it comes well after Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, has passed away and is no longer alive to see this. And I must say it again, I always all right, sorry about that. Say, does Biggie's mom have to die before his case is solved? Possibly, I don't know. Justice delayed is justice denied, especially for us as Black Americans. We know that. So 27 years. Now, what's interesting is that he made these remarks starting in 2018, referring to Keefe D, when he went on and did interviews talking about this. But also, I got to point this out. Keefe D has implicated other people, saying that, and this is alleged, that P. Diddy, Puff Daddy as he was known, put up $1 million bounty to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur. Now I have to say alleged, because I'm very careful with my words. We, of course, don't want to say something. I know that's not true, although it has been speculated by a lot of people about whether Diddy has something to do with that, or even Biggie's murder. I've heard that. I don't know the facts of that. And I'm careful with my words and spreading stuff, especially anything like that. But I would like to hear, and I don't know what will happen, but I would like to see and hear what Diddy has to say about it. I know Tupac's father, his birth father, is still alive. I wonder what he has to say, as well as his brother. His brother's still alive. What his thoughts are in this case. But that's Chief Keefe D. Let's finish playing this clip.
I just like to say that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department homicide section year over year solves over 90% of the homicides that occur in our jurisdiction. You won't find that anywhere else in the United States. For those family members that have lost somebody that we haven't solved that case, I want you to know, just like in this case, we're not going to give up. I also say to you that as we begin, we're going to take a couple of questions. I want you to remember in your questioning that this investigation, subsequent arrest, and now indictment is only the beginning of the process. And we are committed and invested in ensuring a successful prosecution as we move forward. So with that, we'll take any questions that you might have.
Sheriff,
Ken?
excuse me, Sheriff, thank you. Have you been in touch with the Shakur family, anyone within here today? And if so, can you characterize what they told you?
The family has reached out to my office. I imagine also to Metro. We've been in communication with them. We understand that they are welcoming this news. They are pleased with this news, and they are certainly aware of the return of this indictment.
Do you anticipate them being at court for arraignment of Mr. Davis?
I don't think they'll be at the arraignment. I mean, that's a relatively short hearing, but I know that they'll be involved. I know that they'll want to be apprised of what goes on a frequent basis.
Back.
Can you talk about any of the statements that he made that piqued your curiosity again or got you back into this case?
Jason, you want to answer that? We're not going to talk about any particular statements, but maybe he can address that a little bit.
What I'll say is there's a lot that's going to come out when it comes time for trial, but he provides his own series of statements that are very consistent with the evidence that we have on the scene that we've obtained through our investigation. I'll leave it at that.
Did you identify anything that came from the service of the warrant in July that you didn't know before?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I'll say about the search warrant that we did in July, that we obtained information or evidence during that execution of that search warrant that corroborated information obtained through our investigation. And I'll leave it at that until we go to trial.
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Lane with Channel 3. So I know that this was obviously a big move. Is there anyone else being looked at this point? I know a lot of people have passed away since this incident, but is anyone else being looked at as part of this investigation still?
So as I stated earlier, in this case, the only living suspect related to this investigation is Duane Davis. All other three suspects are deceased.
Vanessa.
Thank you. Vanessa Murphy, Channel 8. Steve, can you talk about the murder charge if he is not the one believed to have pulled the trigger?
Yes, well, under Nevada law, and this is the law in most states in this country, you can be charged with a crime whether you're directly involved or whether you're an aider and abetter. We have an aiding and abetting statute.
What the prosecutor is talking about is something I've discussed with y'all too. Now I want y'all to listen to what he's saying. What he's referring to is basically the aiding and abetting statute. In Louisiana, we have the principal and accessories after the fact statutes. or in cahoot offenses is what it's called. That's the subsection. So basically, a principal would be a person who is an accessory before the fact. An accessory before the fact means someone who directly or indirectly procures or does an act in furtherance of a crime, a criminal conspiracy, for instance. So people that rob a liquor store together, or a bank. Let's do a bank robbery. Like if you saw the movie Baby Driver. Baby Driver, if you remember in that film, which was a few years ago, he was the getaway driver. He would have been, and likely at the end of the movie, did have to serve some time, albeit I'm thinking because he cooperated with the state based off the witness statements. They were easy on him in sentencing, but he was essentially the getaway driver. And he would have been likely indicted or arrested on all charges in association with that robbery, even the bank robbery in itself, because even though he had nothing to do with it, he was not fit in terms of going inside the bank. He was never he was still a part of its operation, its motive, and so forth. Although motive is not an element, but he was in charge of the planning and how it would be structured. So he was just as guilty as the other principals that were involved.
Which provides that if you help somebody commit a crime, you can be equally as guilty. The best example is two guys that agree to commit a bank robbery. And one of them goes into the bank with a gun and actually commits the robbery. And the other guy is the getaway driver. Never went in the bank, but he assisted the guy that went in the bank. So he's equally guilty. That is one of the theories in this case as well.
Last question.
Do investigators believe that Davis was the only person behind the plan to kill Tupac, or was he one of multiple people who came up with this plan?
I think the best way to characterize that is Duane Davis was the shot caller for this group of individuals that committed this crime, and he orchestrated the plan that was carried out to commit this crime.
And can you say how he obtained the gun or who he obtained it from?
We know that he obtained it from a close associate. That a lot of the actual details of who specifically, all that come out of trial, but he obtained it from a close associate.
Thank you for coming.
Lieutenant,
Appreciate it.
Can you say if Mr. Davis has said anything since the
Mr. Wilson, Steve, Steve. Give me my phone number.
So I don't know if, and look, I think there's obviously more to this. We know that everybody that was suspected from Orlando Anderson and the other individuals are dead. Suge Knight has been on record saying he will never tell anything about it if he knew who the killers was. He has been on record saying, I'm not doing it, I'm not talking. And we know Suge has always been tied to the Bloods. You know, that's not a secret. You know, his dealings in the music industry have always been suspect and shady to a lot of people. But is this justice? Do you think justice has finally come? Is it that? Well, first and foremost, the man has not been he's not been convicted. He's innocent until proven guilty, and everything will have to happen if there's a jury trial, what his attorneys would say. I would say, given that I'm waiting to see what the evidence is, but the statements that he has made on record, let's just put it this way. When he's talking about he was in the car and slipped a gun, he has incriminated himself by doing that. So he told on himself to an extent. So we'll find out what happens, but this is a first-degree murder charge, which, especially one of the most prolific rappers in history, this man is alleged to have killed. And his indictment says, it does say a lot, but an indictment You know, everything matters. What matters is what happens at the jury trial eventually. So we'll find out. I'm trying to see if I can actually get that indictment paper. I saw it earlier. I'm gonna have to get it again. So Tupac's, this is interesting. Tupac's stepbrother has made an announcement. He released a statement saying why it took so long for the Las Vegas detectives to make an arrest. He says Mopreme Shakur said called the arrest of Davis 27 years after the death of the rapper bittersweet. He said, "We have been through decades of pain. They have known about this guy who has been running his mouth for years. So why now? For us, this is not over. We want to know why and if there were any accomplices." Yeah, and this is the video. So that's a picture of the indictment. Hold on, let me share this with you because I got to run in a second. But this is the article from Daily Mail, and this is the video. So I think this is the video from the arrest that they made that night, or of the raid on the home. Yeah, and Davis here is pictured. He's on Vlad TV. This was back in 2019 when he had that memoir. So he's been running his mouth. Why now, police?
Come on out with your hands up and your hands in, please.
See her? Yep. Okay, go.
Go ahead, hands up, guys. Come on, walk out. Walk towards the stairs now. Come on down the driveway to that sidewalk.
Mail's out front. Stop them right there.
Okay, you need to stop right there.
Take the mail in the
Stop right there. Go ahead and put down your cigarette, please. Put down your cigarette. Put your hands up.
Just tell her to listen to us. Stay right there.
Keep your hands up, man. You guys need to stop moving around. Put your hands up. Sir, you need to put your phone down. Put your phone down. Put your hands on top of your head. Hands on top of your head right now.
We're gonna take that mail first.
Hands on top of your head. Sir, now go ahead and turn away from us. Turn away from us. You're gonna walk back to the sound of my voice.
All right, we will take.
Keep walking back.
Nate, we've got it. Hey, brother, keep walking back.
Yep. Keep walking back. Take a step to your left. Step to your left. Hey, face away from me. Face the house. Slowly walk back towards the sound of my voice. You're doing good. Appreciate your cooperation. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Come here.
What's your name?
Occupant of 2204 Maple Shade. It's the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We have a search warrant for the residence. You need to come out with your hand up and your hand empty. Occupant of 2204 Maple Shade. It's the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We have a search warrant for the residence. You need to come out with your hand up and your hand empty. Occupant of 2204 Maple Shade. It's the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We have a search warrant for the residence. You can come out with your hands up and your hands empty. Occupant of 2204 Maple Shade. This is the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
I'll pause it right there, good family. I had to run. But yeah, that was from the raid of the police officers at the house of Keefe D. Obviously, they secured some items. But what do you all say? And what do y'all think of what happened here? It's the justice delayed, justice denied for Tupac. Are you happy that an arrest has been made? What do you think? I'm actually gonna put a question in the chat, so I'm gonna ask you all, what are your thoughts? Or how do you feel, rather, about the arrest made in connection with Tupac's murder. I still remember when he was shot. I was actually, so if that was in 1996, I was 10. I remember it because of the boxing fight that was there. We would always go to my grandfather's house for a boxing fight at that time because he was big on that boxing. And we watched that fight. And I remember we were leaving and we got home, and I think it was the next day because if Tupac was shot on the Vegas Strip, even though it was the West Coast, we were in New Orleans at the time, home here. So we're about 2 hours away. So I probably went to bed after that and woke up to the news that happened. Unfortunately, on MTV was breaking that Tupac Shakur had been shot and was in critical condition. So we didn't know exactly what happened or whether he was going to live or die at that time. Unfortunately, we know that he passed several days later on that Saturday. And I remember MTV actually was in rotation playing all of his music videos. And they had the release of I Ain't Mad at You, which is big at that time because that was the last video he shot before he died. But I'm gonna play. I'm on my way to the bowling alley. I'm gonna be playing I Ain't Mad at You. So rest in peace to Tupac. But y'all let me know what y'all think of his passing and how you feel about it, as well as do you think this is justice for him? All right. All right, so I'm about to roll up out of here. Thank you, Star. It's good to see you. It's good to see I was 20. Zay says, as a Tupac fan, it's surreal. I hope the family gets justice. Lamiko says, what's up, Lamiko? Says, so almost after 30 years, the LVPD decides to solve Tupac's murder. Yeah, well, that's what Mopreme was saying. The man's been running his mouth for years. Why now? Rez G says, glad they made an arrest after 27 years long. Wish his mother was here to see it. Hopefully Biggie's mother has some justice for her son. This is something, honestly, guys, this is a day I thought I'd never see. I never thought that this would happen. But they made an arrest. Now, here's the other part I have is, are they going to get the others? Who else was involved? Everybody in the car, for the most part, that was in that car was there except Keefe D. But were there other people involved? He says that he was, I read the article, it's up there on Wikipedia now, it's not reliable, but they said, or he alleged that Diddy had something to do with it too. Like putting up $1 million bounty. And I don't know how true that is, but what will come of that. But rest in peace, Tupac, Biggie, Smalls. I'm going to get on out of here. All right. Say hello to the fan. Everybody. Dad came in.
Hello, everyone.
He's excluded in here. All right, y'all. I'm going to roll out here. I got to go. Y'all have a good weekend, okay? I know I didn't do a live yesterday, but I wanted to come on for this. This was big news. All right. Good night, y'all. Peace.